He's basically made clear that under a Trump administration, the United States is unlikely to keep its NATO commitments. And I think that Republicans who understand the importance of the national security situation, who continue to support him, are similarly going to be held to account. You know, when you think about Donald Trump, for example, pledging retribution, what Vladimir Putin did to Navalny is what retribution looks like in a country where the leader is not subject to the rule of law. And I think that we have to take Donald Trump very seriously. We have to take seriously the extent to which, you've now got a Putin wing of the Republican Party. I believe the issue this election cycle is making sure the Putin wing of the Republican Party does not take over the West Wing of the White House.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the latest Trump deranged talking point from the mainstream liberal media in the Democrat Party, which is that somehow, some way, Donald Trump is responsible for the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who died in a Russian penal colony on Friday. And now the mainstream liberal media is blaming Trump. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Alexei Navalny, he is a Russian opposition leader. Okay, he's a prominent critic of Putin. He's an activist who spoke out frequently and organized protests against the Russian government led by Vladimir Putin. He received a suspended sentence back in 2013 for accusations of embezzlement. He was released, and after he was released, he decided to run for office, including mayor of Moscow. And I believe back in 2018 or so, he tried to run for president of Russia. He tried to take on Putin, but he was actually barred from running for office. And then in 2020, he was poisoned by a nerve agent. He was then hospitalized in Germany. He accuses Putin of trying to assassinate him, to kill him, okay, to poison him. He blames it on Putin. And then once he returned back to Russia after being poisoned, he was subsequently, in prison because of the violation of his parole. Apparently, he was not allowed to leave the country as a condition of his suspended embezzlement sentence back in 2014. But yeah, once he returned back to the country, he ended up getting arrested. And then at that point, they basically lifted his suspended sentence and they turned it into a prison sentence. And he spent time in prison in which he was, again, subsequently found guilty of embezzlement, got more years in prison, and then he got found guilty of extremism charges, got sentenced to more years in prison. Now, the West says that this is all political, okay, that he's a political prisoner, and eventually he ended up dying, okay? He went missing for like 3 weeks and then, ended up showing back up at a, Russian penal colony. And apparently he was very malnourished and, eventually he ended up dying, okay? And they're calling this murder. And they're also somehow, some way trying to say that Trump is responsible. So let's listen to this wild conspiracy theory from Democrats who claim that conspiracy theories are dangerous, except when they put out these types of conspiracies about Trump somehow, some way being responsible for this guy's death.
Congressman of California, Ted Lieu. He sits on the Foreign Affairs and Judiciary Committees. Congressman, welcome here in the studio. Good to have you in person. I love that. Let's begin with the death of the Russian leader, Alexei Navalny. It was in a Siberian prison, as you know. President Biden says that Russian President Vladimir Putin is responsible for his death. First of all, what are your thoughts about this, and how, if we can, should the U.S. hold Russia responsible?
Thank you, Alex. I think we have to ask ourselves, why did Navalny all of a sudden die at this point in time? I first of all agree with President Biden that Russia is responsible for his death. Also, what happened in the few days leading up to his death? Well, we had former President Donald Trump essentially say that Russia should attack European countries.
That's not what he said, right? Again, they lie so much about what Trump says. It's ridiculous, okay? It really is. Trump telling a story about negotiating, right? Using the art of the deal to make our NATO allies hold up their end of the bargain when it comes to our defense alliance agreement, in which, hey, in exchange for the U.S. military protecting you from the possibility of a Russian invasion, you have to pay us. You actually have to uphold your end of the deal. And if you don't do that, then, hey, we're not going to promise you that we're going to actually protect you. We're not going to uphold our end of the deal. Apparently negotiating is inviting Putin to invade these NATO countries. Again, this is ridiculous. This is the most ridiculous talking point I've ever heard in my life. And these people just continue to spew it, even though like clearly they're lying on mainstream liberal media. Right. And this is why Trump continues to grow stronger and stronger and stronger, because people hear what Trump is saying. Right. The average person can hear, OK, that's not what he's saying. He's clearly talking about negotiating. He's using a negotiation tactic, OK, to actually help taxpayers not overpay or overspend on this defense alliance, because it's not fair to us to be funding this defense alliance and our allies aren't doing their part. That's not fair. He's working on behalf of taxpayers, but apparently, again, that's inviting Russia to invade these countries. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And again, this is why Trump gets stronger and stronger and stronger, because of these wild accusations that they make against him that clearly are false.
That is crazy. That is traitorous language. Russia certainly was listening, and I think they thought, hey, we now have a green light to do all sorts of crazy stuff. And if Trump would be president, Putin would have even more latitude. Some responses? Russia has funded terrorism. They are a state sponsor of terrorism. The State Department could designate Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. In addition, we can seize the Russian assets that we have that are already frozen, and we can sell them and give the proceeds to Ukraine.
So the first part of your answer there, are you suggesting there could be a link between what Donald Trump was saying Russia, do whatever the hell you want, tornado allies? Do you think it emboldened potentially Putin? Because to your other point, the day before he died, he looked to be in perfectly good health. He'd spoken with his wife. He appeared via Zoom in some sort of a legal arraignment that he had to do there. We're looking at pictures right there. He was joking with the guards, joking with the judge or an attorney there. He looked absolutely fine. The next day, drops dead?
I think it's quite a coincidence. And certainly Russia is listening to what the former president is saying. He's saying crazy stuff. And the language he's using is not only crazy, it dishonors the veterans and our military members who fought in World War II, who established this peaceful world order that has kept the peace for many, many years.
You know who also fought in World War II and doesn't get enough credit for taking down Nazi Germany on the Eastern Front? Russia, right? You know who lost the most people during that time period? Russia. Over 27 million people. You know the most deadly battle in World War II? The Battle of Stalingrad was, again, a bloodbath, okay? I mean, you hear stories about how you had Russian troops that were fighting, and you have a Russian troop behind the other guy who quite literally would just be there so that the person in front of him, when he dies, eventually gets shot and dies, he'd pick up his weapon and keep going, right? There's some crazy stories about how the Russians fought in World War II that, in my opinion, I don't think that from a Western perspective, we give Russia enough credit in regards to their role in helping defeat Nazi Germany, okay? That Battle of Stalingrad was crucial to defeating Hitler, okay, and the Germans on the Eastern Front. I mean, they had over 1 million casualties, okay? They also fought the Battle of Berlin, which was led by the Soviet Union. That was a Soviet Union operation. Another crucial battle that was extremely deadly, in which they lost a ton of troops, a ton of casualties, and they were crucial to defeating Nazi Germany. In fact, I would argue that we would not have been able to defeat Nazi Germany without Russia, right? Without the Soviet Union. Okay? I mean, they were willing to fight battles that were of certain death. And from a Western perspective, I don't think that Russia gets enough credit for helping the West defeat Nazi Germany in World War II. I don't think that they get enough credit. Now, obviously, the United States, we did our thing in the Pacific and also on the Western Front as well, too. Think, for example, the Battle of the Bulge, okay, in which you had Hitler on the ropes. Okay, this is his last-ditch effort to launch an offensive against the Allies and to try to secure victory in World War II, at least on the Western Front, that is. And this was one of the greatest battles in American history, fought by Americans, according to Winston Churchill, in which we essentially successfully stopped Hitler and this last-ditch offensive front to the West. But when it comes to taking down Nazi Germany and defeating Hitler, I don't think the Soviet Union gets enough credit. I really don't. So I think that there's a lot of disrespect towards Russia, especially when it comes to their role in helping us take down Nazi Germany in World War II. So again, you can hate, Russia, the current regime or whatever, right? You can say, oh, Putin evil. I mean, who knows? He might have actually did kill the guy, right? I wouldn't put it past him, okay, to do that, right? But here's the irony of them complaining about what Putin allegedly did to his guy. I'm going to tell you in a minute.
And to say you essentially want to destroy NATO in not so many words is crazy.
Yeah, he never said he wanted to destroy NATO, but, it's pretty funny because when Trump was president, Trump didn't pull out of NATO. He just wanted NATO to pull their own weight. But again, the irony here in regards to what they're alleging happened to this guy at the hands of Putin, I would argue, right, if you want to go down the conspiracy theory route, which in my opinion, I don't think this is much conspiracy theory. I think this is just clearly and obviously what they want to do. What Putin did to Alexei Navalny, what he allegedly did, I would argue that's what Democrats and the establishment is trying to do to President Trump, right? They're trying to lock up their political prisoner and to throw the man in jail, okay, and to treat Trump the same way that Putin allegedly treated this guy. They're trying to bar Trump from running for president of the United States the same way that Putin allegedly barred this guy, Alexei Navalny, from running for the president of Russia, saying that, well, you have a criminal conviction, right? You're a criminal, so therefore you can't really run. Well, again, that's what they're doing to Trump in the United States, even though Trump's not actually a criminal, right? It's so funny how that works. There's so many parallels to what Putin does to his political opponents in Russia, and that's what Democrats are doing to their political opponents here in the United States of America. Again, if they can have it their way, if Democrats can have it their way, Trump would suffer the same fate as Putin's political opponents do in Russia, right? This is what they want. This is what they're trying to do right here in the United States of America. Look what's happened to the peaceful protesters or the people that were peacefully protesting or that peacefully entered the Capitol on January 6th. Look at what Democrats in the state are trying to do to them. Look at it. You mean to tell me there's not parallels between that and what happens to Putin's political opponents in Russia? But they want to point the finger at Putin and say, bad guy, dictator, when Democrats are doing the same thing, right? Since you want to go down the conspiracy theory route and try to blame Trump for the death of Putin's opposition leader, even though you have no evidence whatsoever. Apparently, Putin listens to everything Trump says, right? Putin does everything Trump says, okay? Which, again, is funny because they say that Trump is supposed to be a puppet of Putin. But now it sounds like Putin is a puppet of Trump, right? Which one is it? Tell me, which one is it? Is Trump a puppet of Putin or is Putin a puppet of Trump? I don't get it. I don't understand. It seems like they change up their rhetoric depending on how it suits their agenda at the time. I'm not entirely sure. It makes zero sense to me because they claim that Trump is responsible for this guy's death because Trump gives Putin a pass to do whatever Putin wants to do. Except Putin invaded a new country under Bush, under Obama, and under Biden. But he didn't invade a new country under Trump. Why? Okay, Putin already came out and told you, hey, I'm endorsing Biden because Biden is a lot more predictable and weaker than Trump, right? Trump is unpredictable. Trump is a madman, okay? He might actually nuke Moscow, okay? So I don't want that guy to be president, okay? I don't want him to be president. I actually would much rather have Biden in office. Again, tell me, if Trump gives Putin a pass to do whatever the hell he wants to do, why is it that Putin invaded all these countries under Bush, Obama, and Biden? He was bold enough to do that under those presidents, but not under Trump. Under Trump, he said, you know what? I'm not going to launch any new invasions. I'm not going to do anything, right? Why is it that under Trump, he decided I'm going to chill out? Why is that? Why is that? I don't understand. I don't get it, okay? I don't get it. But from my perspective, since, again, you want to go down the conspiracy theory route, I believe that everything that they're accusing Putin of doing in Russia, I think that that's what they're trying to do to Trump here in the United States. That's the irony here. That's the funny part. But yeah, they don't really want to address that. They don't want to address those parallels that are clear and obvious. So with that being said, again, another ridiculous conspiracy from the mainstream liberal media that most people will listen to and say, yeah, this is just peak Trump derangement, right? Blaming Trump for things that happen in Russia when Trump clearly and obviously has nothing to do with that, but the mainstream liberal media is going to blame it on Trump anyways. Everything's Trump's fault, right? Everything is Trump's fault. Amazing. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.